April 13th meeting of the Coastside County Water District to order. Here comes Glenn. I'll turn it over to him.
Right to
There he
end or to
is.
join?
Hello, Glenn.
That's to end.
I think I'm here, but I don't have the video. My tech person's over the hill trying to get me on here. Sure, I'll get a share screen maybe, Trudes.
We can hear you.
Okay, at least you can
Can't
hear
see
me.
you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Glenn, you can take over.
All right,
I opened the meeting.
I would
Can you just be?
start our meeting for the Tuesday, our regular meeting, Tuesday, April the 13th.
Can't hear
You can't,
We need to buy Glenn a microphone.
Okay, are you on mute, Ted?
Yeah, muted.
okay. Can you hear me now? Anything? Nothing?
you. No, can't hear you.
You're very, very faint, Glenn.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm operating on one ear, so I need extra loud.
All right, let me go to Plan B.
And
Maybe I do. Maybe that's the plan. I think Chris may be right. Maybe I need to buy that microphone thing.
can you hear him, I guess?
Minute. All right. Denise, if you could let me in on this one.
Yep, I just did.
All right. Thank you. Okay, can people
Hello.
do better on that?
All right, John's here.
Hey, John.
Hi, John.
I can hear John. Hey, John. Lost
Glenn, you're,
Glenn.
you're muted on the other
there he is.
one.
He's down there. His mic's off.
I think I'm there, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you're there.
Hey, John, how's your knee? How's your knee?
4 weeks today, the executive of Apple had to get me on tonight. But
All right.
I do have rain records here from the 1800s.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, finally,
Excellent.
my first time in 6 months.
Okay. I turned off. I think we've got everything dialed in. All right. So let's, without further ado, let's do it.
Awesome.
Regular meeting of Tuesday, the April 13th of the Coastside County Water District Board of Directors. And we will start with a roll call, please.
Director Muller,
Present.
Director Coverdale,
Here.
Director Michelson,
Here.
Vice President Feldman,
Here.
President Reynolds.
Here. All right, let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Let's change hands. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of the
of the United States of America
America. And to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Amen.
All right. Do we have any public comments tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to our consent calendar. Do any directors have any comments or wish to pull any items from the consent calendar? And while we're on the topic, we should note that Director Coverdale has reviewed the financial claims.
I have, and I found them in order.
All right. And do we have a motion to take the consent calendar then?
I so move to accept the consent calendar.
All right.
And I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay. We one motion and 2 seconds. A roll call, Denise.
Director Muller,
Aye.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right. Do any directors have any meetings attended to report or director comments?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Please go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you. The general manager and the vice chair and I had a subcommittee hearing on HR with no reportable actions, I believe, Mr. Vice Chair, correct? And,
Right.
and that was on Monday, April 5th. And if I may, Mr. Chair, just briefly, I have an amazing history record here of our watershed. And in 1947, we had a huge drought of only 14 inches, 14.20 in Half Moon Bay. And then in 1948, we had 16.18. So those were some pretty dry years. And then in 1959, 60, and 61, we had floods. So I just have this great records I've saved for many, many years. It was put together in 1956, and maybe I could share this with staff to make a copy for the history records.
Please, that'd be great.
Excellent. Thank you.
That goes back to 1925.
Excellent.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ken, go ahead.
the Snowpack Research Committee met in the Sierra, but I'm not going to make a report because, in all deference to Kathleen, I want her to be able to make the report on the snowpack.
Perfect. Thank you. Bob or Chris, either of you got anything?
No, not this month.
Not this
All right.
one.
I'm here to. I had the opportunity to survey several of the coastal reservoirs by air, and I'm kind of stunned that some of them are truly low. So that was really an eye-opening experience. Sorry I didn't get pictures, but maybe next time. All right. We have our quarterly financial review.
Okay. So thank you. We're 9 months into the year, if you can believe it. And we're in good shape financially. Water sales are higher than planned by, 448,000. And that's largely due because it hasn't rained, so we're using more water. We had expected, more of a decrease, because of COVID and various things, but it is, but actually, let's say we benefited with the water, higher water sales. Our tax revenues are actually higher than we had in our budget, and we had lower LAIF interest. The interest rate on LAIF, it's like something like 0.34%, or it's very, very low. It had been, in the last couple of years before COVID, it had been up there in the 2.5%. So, so we're not earning much on our money. And then in terms of our expenses, our expenses are 316,000 below budget. We did have increased water costs with SFPUC. We've spent 203,000 more than what our budget. A couple things. First of all, we sold more water, but second of all, we just haven't been able to use our local sources like we did last year. To date, for the 9 months, we had 126 million gallons of use of local source water, where last year at this time we had produced 240 million gallons of local source water. So it's pretty dry. You'll hear that we'll be lucky really to be able to use Denniston much further into the year, things are pretty dry. But in terms of our expenses, though, we saved on personnel costs. We have some open positions we haven't filled yet, and also we had a treatment operator position that vacated. We're still in the process of filling. So. And we did, because of not using Denniston as much, we saved at Denniston about 75,000 in pumping and operations costs. and we've saved some on consulting and expenses, election expenses, and then there's timing differences. We still have 3 months to go. So, but all in all, we are in good shape financially. With our capital improvement program, for the first 9 months, we spent $2.6 million, and we had, we are estimating that we'll spend about 3.7 by the end of the year. We have some projects that have been delayed, and so including the straw flower pipeline, project. It's, we're still going through CEQA, so it's going to be August before we can bid that project. We still need to do the Highway 92 project on the Cosalino property. We haven't, we need to get working on that. And we have some, design projects that we're working on. But we should, we do have a lot of things, kind of coming up, and including, we'll be having discussions with the board on the Nunes water treatment project, and also we'll have some, in the fall there'll be pipeline projects, including Grandview neighborhood, and the so that will be coming to the board with. So we have a lot of things to spend our money on. We've just delayed a few months on some of the projects. So with that, our cash balance looks great right now, but again, we'll be spending money next year in the upcoming year, and so we had some, so we haven't spent the CIP, and we had on our operating budget we had a lot, a fair amount of savings and higher sales. So I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions on that portion yet, or my report?
That seems fine. Are you going to talk about the accounts receivable?
Yes. So on the accounts receivable side, as you're seeing it, the receivables are inching up, and we have. So it is. It's we're actually though seeing most of the that the residential and the commercial customers generally are paying. I actually had figured out that in terms of our customers, I think right now we have if you look in, I'm not counting really the two, over 2 months late from residential customers and commercial customers, we have about 28,000 outstanding, and then we have a large customer that hasn't paid. However, we are negotiating. I may see a payment this week, so it's working. But we're seeing the balances inch up.
At what point do we need to adjust our budget to? I mean, if you look at the trend and see where it's going, it seems like we should start incorporating that into our budget planning. It's a new expense that we haven't previously had.
Yeah, new bad debt. Well, right now I will say, except for the one customer that large customer that we have, and hopefully we may see a payment, but we don't have very many customers who really just aren't paying. It's just they're slow. We will have to make an assessment at the end of our fiscal year, and do an accrual for what we would estimate for bad debt expense.
Okay. Any other director questions or comments?
Yeah. What are we hearing as far as when will we ever be able to go back to shutting people off?
We have not heard. And there's additional legislation out there that it may make it even more difficult to shut people off in the future. There's some legislation to actually even tighten up SB 998. If you recall, we had to implement SB 998, which actually increased the number of days we had to wait before we could cut a customer off to 60 days past due. There's legislation out there to even make it more difficult for water, agencies to cut customers off.
So the era of free water is looming out there somewhere in the very near future.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Chris, I'd characterize it more as we have to look at how to alternatively fund our operation if it's no longer a pay for services program. What are other ways of doing it? Because if you don't have to, if it's voluntary to pay for the water, that's going to be have a sobering change in how we have historically operated.
Well, we just use a Joe Biden method and we charge the rich twice as much. It's a real simple solution.
Perfect. All right.
Through the chair, one comment. It seems to me that if we get into a situation where the receivables grow and grow, there must be some type of a mechanics lien or something that could be associated with a parcel, so that we wouldn't actually recover the money immediately, but at the point of sale, there might be an ability for us to make a claim during that, process of closing the property. So it seems to me like it would be important for our legal counsel to look into ways for us to attach these parcels in the event that we have failure to pay, as opposed to writing them off.
That's a great suggestion, Ken. That sounds like a really good idea. I would say that seems like a great question to get an answer to.
Yeah, I can bring it up with Pat. I mean, as Mary said, the law is very much so in flux right now. We had a whole new system put into place, as Mary mentioned, and then the pandemic hit immediately, and now there's new legislation. But I think we can look into the mechanic liens aspect of things, since I'm not sure that would necessarily be affected by this legislation.
Yeah, and it means we're not penalizing the individual who currently can't pay, but we're not walking away from the money completely. And I think that's a great. I'm impressed, Ken. That's a good one. All right. Any other comments?
This is John, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
The way I kind of a little quick sheet per count here on the numbers, it looks like we're behind by about 208,000 at this point. Does that sound right with the general manager's numbers?
I'm sorry, you're on which line item?
On the staff containers to monitor the amounts that are past due.
Yeah, the past due amounts are right now. They total up 208,000, but that includes about 90. That includes the amount that's, I'll say, 1 month past due, and I'm not too worried about those because those are pretty much that's kind of at a steady point. So.
Very good. That's the way I read it. So I appreciate the confidence in that.
All right. Anybody else? Bob?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to our general manager's report.
Okay. I am very pleased to announce that the district was awarded a grant of $202,000 from the California California Governor's Office of Emergency Services under the Community Power Resiliency Allocation to special districts. So back last October, we submitted a grant application and to be able to purchase a 5,000-gallon diesel storage tank and a 1,000-gallon unleaded tank that we would put at Nunes. We wanted to increase our storage capabilities of fuel, seeing that if we had an emergency or a PSPS event, Highway 92 could be blocked. And so we want to be able to add resiliency and be able to have fuel to run our generators. So these fuel tanks will allow us to run for 15 to 20 days without refilling. So we actually have received the $202,000 check in hand. So we're ready to go out and purchase. So you'll be seeing something very soon to approve at the board level for those purchases. But it was very exciting for us to get this grant. So.
Well done. Thanks for doing the application and good job on getting it.
Yeah. Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, congratulations, staff, for this amazing grant. And I just was wondering if it's possible to kind of do a very light media release regarding this grant because El Granada is in such a fluff right now with potential fire hazards out there. This would be able to include in the fire protection of our community. So, it's up to the professionals if they think we could have a media release on this grant we received. It's a compliment to everyone there. Just my suggestion.
No, that's a good idea. Something in the review, like a little press release or something. Mary?
I'm there for you. I'm there for you. If you want to do a press release, I'll put it out.
I would recommend that personally from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Positive news is good for us. So when we've got positive news, let's announce it.
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah.
So the second item I have my general manager's report. San Mateo County is in the process of updating its local hazard mitigation plan. And so and this is the last the plan was actually created in 2016. So they're required to do this update in order to be able to get FEMA funds and state grant funds in a disaster. So we were not included in the last grant round, but we were asked to, it was noticed that we were absent and we were contacted. And so we agreed to partner and to be a planning partner for this effort. So we have a series of workshops and to-dos that we'll be working on through August. I think that a draft of the plan will come out in the August time frame. So we were told it'll take about 40 hours of staff time to work on this. We did our first homework assignment last month, and basically this whole thing his plan is really to assess the hazard vulnerabilities and identify mitigation actions to limit injury, property damage, etc. So as a first responder on the coast side, we're there to be involved. I also, with this, participated in a social equity workshop for mitigation actions. Since we are, on the coast side, we were identified as an area where where it might be difficult to get to some of our population in an emergency. So. anyway, I wanted to bring that up. The last item I wanted to bring up is that we were, in February, I reported that we had gotten these 3 awards for having low insurance claims, and they put their money where their award was, and gave us a check for $34,000. And we had gotten a check last year for $34,000, so we had a nice refund check because of our low loss experience. So
Great, good work.
Super. All right. Thank you, Mary. And then we move to Mr. Durbin.
Good evening, board members. We just recently turned off the Pillar Cedos wells for the pumping season at the end of last month. We ran about 250 of, typical 690, what we can get. So we squeezed what we could out of the Pillar Cedos watershed for the pumping season. Denniston is plunking along at 400. We expect to maybe have a couple of more weeks before we're going to have to shut that plant down. But we are doing everything we can to keep it going through the month. Staff in-house replaced the wash water return control valve at Nunes. They did a great job, and it's now integrated so that it modulates and will achieve the 10% of the influent flow to stay within the guidelines set by DDW. They did a real nice job on that. They did it all in-house other than the SCADA integration. Cathodic Protection has been installed, the Miramontes tank. First round of interviews, actually second round of interviews for the treatment recruitment have taken place. And we've done pretty well with that. We'll report more on that once we make some decisions. Replace some hydrants. The March sources were Crystal Springs, Pillar Cedos wells, Denniston Reservoir, and the wells. The HDR Nunes Water Treatment Plant Upgrades Project bid opening on the 3rd of March. The low bid was $8.4 million. We're going to talk about that more later. CityWorks CMMS system training with treatment and distribution staff has started. We're looking to test the integration with Tyler next week. EKI on the Pillar Cedos crossing, as Mary mentioned, we're in kind of CEQA mode there. And HDR has done the topo survey, or had the surveyors do the topo for the Half Moon Bay Tank 3 replacement project. And that's it. Staff's doing great.
Thank you.
Two questions.
Bob, did you?
What was the budget? What's in budget for the Nunes upgrade? The Nunes upgrades?
The engineer's estimate was $6 million.
So that's the lowest bid you got was 8.4?
Yes.
No?
Yeah, Bob, we're going to have a separate meeting to go over that. So.
No, I'm just asking. I didn't remember what the budget was, because that's a little bit more than we had in the kitty. That's all I'm saying. So that was my first question. And then the EKI's work, they continue to put together the pre-work for all the capital stuff we're doing, and yet we're still a little behind on that. I know there's some reasons for that, but I'm still, are we using them in the best way possible? Because they were going to help us to fast track lots of these things and get them moving. And so we're about a third of, we're 60% of where we thought we'd be, and we'll finish the year at about that level. So the Feldman factor is coming into play again. So I'm just wondering if we're overcommitting things that we're trying to get done, and maybe, put a little more in there than we can actually accomplish going forward, because it's a significant difference in my view. That was just, any comments on it?
We are, once we get these projects in the pipeline, we are going to be, I think we're going to have a lot going on next year. I think the unfortunate thing with some of these things was CEQA, and then we've gotten caught up with permitting. So they've been, that have slowed things down. It's just, working through, those processes.
Mm-hmm.
But we are.
It's not a surprise. I mean, it's unlike, reminds me of previous times. That's all I'm saying. It's not, it's happened in the past and it seems to starting to look like a little again. And I'm hoping that, we budget what we can do.
Yeah,
going forward. Make the attempt to try and put a realistic thing together. That's just where my head's at right now. I mean, you're doing good work. We're doing a lot of stuff. I'm not arguing it. And this pandemic hasn't helped. But it's just a little conservatism might be involved. How long is the Nunez treatment plant project scheduled to do that upgrade? How long will it take to do that?
It'll be close to a 2-year project.
Okay. So a couple of years that I'm just trying to figure that in too, because that'll be a biggie.
That'll be a biggie.
I'm just trying to get them all sort of in my mind organized a little bit to know what we're looking toward the next few years. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I think we ought to be very aware of the potential federal legislation on this so-called infrastructure bill. But along that line, if I may recommend to the general manager, let's stay very close with that, please. And then also include U.S. Representative Jackie Spear, because I know she has a strong concern for the coast all her years. And I think that would be a good resource to copy with all our interest of receiving some funding for our infrastructure. And
Okay.
That's it.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? All right, let's go to Kathleen.
Hey, so the district is still waiting for San Francisco, I should say SFPUC, to give us their April water supply condition update. I'm pretty sure by Friday, we should have an update where they assess whether we need to do voluntary or even mandatory rationing, because we're in the second year of dry conditions. So we'll definitely know by the May board meeting, but we just don't have that update right now. So in my staff report, I give an update on the statewide conditions, and it's very similar to what it was last month. We didn't get that storm door to open during the month of March. So we're looking again at a second consecutive dry year it doesn't look like there's any snow or rain precipitation in the near future. And so if Director Coverdell would like to add to that with his firsthand experience in the Sierras, that would be great.
I would be happy to, but I always feel like I kind of one up your report. And so I wanted to make sure that you had the ability to report fairly, because I watch all the time. Well, my experience is that the ability of the Sierra to hold snow on the north side and the east side was fairly impressive. But on the west side and the south side, of course, of the Sierra, I was shocked. I mean, how quickly things are melting. And I think that what was most concerning to me was we never got the big dumps, the 4 feet, the 6 feet, the 8 feet, the 4 feet, 4 days in a row. And so it was really surprising to watch. And it's difficult in a ski resort because they manage the snow conditions. So they make it appear a lot more like you've got a good snow condition than it truthfully is. And we were pretty fortunate to be up high for the Sierra, not as high as Mammoth, of course, or Mount Rose, or even the top of Heavenly. But the snow conditions at Kirkwood were shockingly low. I mean, the total snowfall this year was 260 inches. In the El Nino year in 98, there was more snow there than anywhere in North America. 595 inches had fallen that year. So it's, to me, watching that process, And then seeing, the efforts, especially with Tuolumne River Trust, on trying to get 40% reduction in the take from the Tuolumne River. I mean, there's really going to be a battle for water. And I think, we live on a little farm, and so we grow a lot of plant materials. We also draw groundwater. And I can't remember the soil being as dry as it is this year. It's shockingly dry. And the coast typically has cooler weather and a little, foggier conditions. But, you look at the total rainfall in Todd's report today was 10.3 inches for the year. I mean, 10 inches. We used to have an average of 27 to 30 inches of rainfall on the coast. So, I think we need to be aggressive about communicating that. I don't think we need to be shock and horror or running around screaming the big D word. But I personally am really concerned. And people are using more water, which is good for business. But, we're also going to hit some hard walls. So anyway, I just think that's why I was asking James if that picture of Hetchy was half full or half empty, because they're anticipating it filling, and it may very well fill. But
yeah, so Hetchy is expected to fill. I think it was at 57% of capacity. But with the snow melt, they expect Hetchy to fill. But all the other reservoirs they have, especially in the Bay Area, they don't anticipate will fill. And the water bank won't fill. So that's the concerning part. So thank you for that. It's very helpful. And then also in my staff report, I have some examples of outreach we've done for the Urban Water Management Plan and the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. We did an advertisement in the Half Moon Bay Review. And we also published an electronic newsletter to try to reach out to our customers to let them know that we are looking at our plans and updating them. And I do need to apologize. There was a grammatical error in the electronic newsletter, but we have a customer notified me, let me know. And that was a good thing because I was actually happy because it means that our customers are actually reading the outreach, which is a good thing. So I do apologize for the error, but it's good to know that our customers are reading it. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I just have a question. Just
comment.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
The information coming out in the public from water type authorities is that this is about the worst year, one of the three worst years ever in the history of California in terms of rainfall. It's the worst I see on our graph for the last 10.3 inches. I mean, it's not too good. I think the Urban Water Management Plan, which we're in the process of putting together, when it comes out, is not going to be pretty. I mean, personally, I haven't seen, the state's input yet, et cetera, and they may be optimistic. We're trying to be cockeyed optimists, but all in all, the word is getting out from the Water Foundation and other agencies that things are not good this year and not looking too good going forward, and then we may be in for trouble. So it's not as if we are not responsible for at least doing something more vocal about this to get people's minds set up for this, including all the other things that may be going to occur, like the water in the Tuolumne and other places like that. I'm just asking Kathleen and Mary to think about how to get some of this out in a positive way, but to at least start to get the customers attuned to the fact that things may look pretty poor going forward next year, even though we know we have 3 years worth of water. I just don't see that in the same way. I think it's going to be a problem. I really do think we have to start talking about it in some way because I don't want to be a spoil sport or the world's falling in, but I think it's not going to be too good unless something dramatic happens. And we shouldn't wait to be behind the curve on this. So this is my opinion.
Yeah,
And
so
I think about it all the time now. I mean, I just keep wondering, what am I going to tell people when we're not going to have water to, flush toilets more than once a day? It could happen, and I'm not sure that we shouldn't at least begin gently to talk about voluntary stuff and some of the stuff that may be forced upon us going forward. So that's just
we like to take a regional approach. Seems to work best.
Right.
So we're working with Bosca. Bosca's working on a regional kind of outreach campaign, so it's consistent. And we like to wait. I mean, we need it when we do the outreach to our customers. We need to be very specific about exactly what we're asking for. So
right.
that's why we're kind of waiting to see what San Francisco says, because we want to give our customers the best information. Yeah. But
I'm just saying, I think once we know something, we should not hesitate to begin to tell our customers in some form what's going to happen and what's going on.
Yes, we definitely are working on that. Definitely.
I appreciate the comments, Mr. Chair, of the Vice Chair. I'm thinking right along that line too. And with all respect, I know the last article, Kathleen, in the review was a little bit of water light there, and I was looking for a little stronger feeling, but staff has informed me about the upcoming release from SFPUC, which will have more control over our comments. So thank you for that. But on a personal level, I've known a couple in the area here, just a little bit out of the district, unfortunately, that are having severe well problems for their personal use in their house and on their property. And then South Coast, from what I can understand, the creeks are very seriously low. And I've lived it, I know droughts. So I think we have to be aware, as the Vice Chair mentioned.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't help customers that are outside our service boundaries. But I think we all agree, especially those of us who garden and are outside, the soil conditions, even my weeds aren't growing. So
I have plenty. Come on over.
so that I know things. I know it's serious when I don't have to pick as many weeds. So, but yes, we are. I guess from the outside, it probably does not appear that we're reacting to the dry conditions, but internally and with our partners with Bosca and SFPUC, we are definitely discussing things and trying to ramp up.
Thank you.
A campaign, yes.
Excellent, thank you. All right. That takes us to our water resources report. We now are prepared to go into closed session. Any comments before we go into closed session from anybody?
Just have to remove some people.
Yep.
I'm going. Bye. Thank
Michelle.
Bye.
DT should go.